You have been kind your entire life. You have softened your words so others would not feel uncomfortable. You have said yes when everything inside you was screaming no. You have made yourself smaller, quieter, more agreeable, and you told yourself that was the right thing to do. And where did it get you? You might be thinking right now, but being kind is a virtue. Music, and you're not wrong. Kindness is a virtue, but there is something most people confuse their entire lives, and that confusion costs them everything. They confuse kindness with weakness. They confuse agreeableness with character. They think that making themselves easy to be around is the same as being worth being around. It is not. The Stoics understood something that takes most people decades to learn, if they ever learn it at all. True attractiveness, the kind that commands respect without demanding it, the kind that draws people in without chasing them, is not built on warmth alone. It is built on something far harder to develop. It is built in inner solidity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, music, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Music, read that again slowly. He did not say if it might upset someone, stay silent, music. He did not say adjust your truth to fit the room. He said, music, anchor yourself in what is right and what is true. Everything else follows from that. Now think about the people in your life you genuinely respect, not the people who always agreed with you, not the people who were always available, always accommodating, always music pleasant. Think about the ones who left a real mark. They probably had opinions. They probably held their ground. They probably told you things you did not want to hear, and you are still grateful for it decades later. That is not a coincidence. That is what inner solidity looks like from the outside. Here is the first lesson the Stoics would give you. Stop performing goodness and start living it. There is a difference between a person who is genuinely kind, who acts from values, from care, from a stable center, and a person who is endlessly nice because they are afraid of disapproval, afraid of conflict, afraid of being seen as difficult. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the most respected teachers of his era, put it plainly, no man is free who is not master of himself. If your pleasantness depends on the approval of whoever is standing in front of you, you are not free. You are managed. And people without being able to name it feel that. They sense when someone has no floor beneath them and they do not respect it. They may like it in temperament, but they do not respect it. Music. This is the beginning of ethereal conversation. Let us go deeper, because understanding the problem is one thing. Understanding what to replace it, music, with is another. The Stoics did not teach coldness. They did not teach arrogance. They did not say push people away, care about no one, walk through life with a wall around you. Music, that is not strength. That is just a different kind of fear wearing a harder mask. What they taught music was something more precise. They called it the discipline of desire, knowing clearly what is worth wanting and what is not, knowing what is within your control and releasing genuinely, releasing what is not. And when you begin to live that way, music, something shifts in how you carry yourself. You stop needing things from people, and the moment you stop needing things from people, you become genuinely interesting to them. You might be thinking right now, that sounds like a paradox. And it is, but it is a paradox that holds up across centuries. Think about a man or a woman you know, perhaps music, someone in their 50s or 60s, who simply does not seem to need your approval. They are not rude about it. They, music, are not cold, but there is something settled about them. They listen without performing. They, music, speak without apologizing for what they think. They can sit in silence without filling it with noise. Being around them feels different from being around most people. It feels like standing near something stable. That is the second Stoic lesson. Your neediness is the thing that is pushing people away. Music, not your flaws, not your age, not your past, your neediness, the quiet, constant signal that you require something from every interaction, validation, agreement, reassurance. That music is what drains the room. Seneca wrote in one of his letters, "Retire into yourself as much as you can." He was not telling you to become a hermit. He was telling you to build an inner life so rich, so rooted, that the outside world loses its power to destabilize you. Because a person who's done that work, who has genuinely built that inner foundation, does not walk into a room wondering if people will like them. They walk in already complete. Music, and here is what that does. It creates space. When you are not pulling at people for something, not reaching, not performing, not managing their impression of you, they can actually see you. And what they see, if you have done any honest work on yourself, is someone worth knowing. The third lesson follows directly. Stop over-explaining yourself. Notice how often you justify your decisions to people who did not ask. Notice how often you add a reason at the end of a sentence that was already complete without one. I cannot make it. Music, I have an appointment is a full sentence. I cannot make it. I have an appointment, and I have been very busy lately, and I hope you understand, is a person asking for permission to have a life. Marcus Aurelius did not over-explain. Epictetus did not soften his philosophy to make it easier to swallow. Seneca wrote letters of extraordinary directness to a friend, knowing some of those words would be uncomfortable. Say what is true, then stop. There is a moment most people in their 40s and 50s reach, sometimes quietly, sometimes after something breaks, where they realize that all the accommodating they have done has not made their life richer. It has made it more crowded with the wrong things, wrong obligations, wrong relationships, wrong versions of themselves that they put on for different rooms. Music, and the realization is not angry. It is just tired, a deep, honest tiredness that says, I have been working very hard to be someone I was never meant to be. The Stoics would say, good, that tiredness is information. Do not medicate it. Music, do not distract yourself from it. Sit with it long enough to understand what it is telling you. What it is telling you is this. You have been living outward for too long, measuring yourself by what others reflect back at you. And that is an exhausting way to live because the reflection is always changing. Music, people are inconsistent. Circumstances shift. Approval is not a stable foundation for anything. The fourth lesson is one Epictetus returned to again and again throughout his teaching. Divide everything in your life into two columns. What is up to you and what is not up to music you. Your opinions, your values, your choices. Your response to what happens, that is your column. Everything else, other people's reactions, their judgments, whether they approve of your decisions, that belongs in the other column. Music, and here is the rule. You are only allowed to work on your column. This sounds simple. Music. It is not simple. Most people spend the majority of their energy on the second column. They replay conversations wondering how they came across. They change their behavior based on signals they are reading from people who are barely paying attention. They build their sense of self on a foundation that other people hold and can move at any time. The moment you genuinely transfer your energy to your own column, the moment you stop auditing yourself through other people's eyes, something in your presence changes. You become less reactive, more deliberate, and there is a gravity to that. People notice it even when they cannot name it. The fifth lesson is about boundaries, but not in the way the word is usually used. The Stoics did not talk about boundaries as walls you build to protect a fragile interior. They talked about them as expressions of values. You do not decline something because you need to protect yourself. You decline it because it conflicts with who you are and what you stand for. That is a completely different energy. One comes from fear. The other comes from clarity. A person who says no from clarity is not difficult. They are trustworthy. You always know where they stand. And in a world where most people say yes while meaning no and smile while feeling nothing, that kind of honesty is rare enough to be magnetic. The sixth lesson, discomfort is not a signal to retreat. One of the most consistent teachings across all three major Stoic philosophers is the deliberate practice of voluntary discomfort. Seneca wrote about it directly. Spend a few days each month living simply, eating plainly, removing comfort, not as punishment, music as practice, as a way of reminding yourself that you can handle far more than your habits suggest. Music. Because a person who has tested themselves, who knows they can sit with difficulty without collapsing, carries that knowledge quietly in everything they do. We are near the end, but the final lessons are perhaps the most important because they are the ones most people avoid. The seventh lesson is about silence, not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. The silence of someone who has chosen not to say it. There is an enormous difference. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, their own and other people's, so they music fill it. They explain, they joke, they qualify, they soften, and in doing so they give away something they did not need to give away. Marcus Aurelius practiced something he called the view from above, stepping back mentally from any situation and seeing it from a wider perspective. From that height, most of what we feel urgency to say looks unnecessary. Most of what we rush to defend does not need defending. Silence chosen deliberately is not emptiness. It is composure. And composure in a world of noise is music extraordinarily attractive. The eighth lesson. Stop apologizing for your nature, not your mistakes. You should own your mistakes clearly, music and without drama. But your nature, the fact that you need time alone, the fact that you have strong opinions, the fact that you are direct or quiet or intense or particular about how you spend your time, these are not defects to be managed. They are the shape of who you are. Epictetus was direct to the point of bluntness. Seneca was prolific and unapologetic about his inner life. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor who spent his private hours writing philosophy he never intended to publish. None of them were performing a softened version of themselves for easier acceptance. The ninth lesson follows from everything before it. Invest in your inner life as seriously as you have invested in your outer one. Music. You have spent decades building skills, earning things, maintaining relationships, managing responsibilities. When did you last sit quietly and ask yourself what you actually believe? What you value above everything else? What kind of person you are still becoming? The Stoics did not treat philosophy as an academic exercise. Music, they treated it as daily maintenance. Every morning, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of the kind of person he intended to be that day. Every evening, Seneca reviewed how he had actually lived, not to punish himself, to stay honest, to close the gap between who he was and who he music meant to be. And the 10th lesson, the one that contains all the others, is simply this. The most dangerously attractive thing a human being can be is complete. Music, not perfect, not finished, but genuinely engaged in their own becoming. Rooted enough to be honest, music secure enough to be kind without needing it returned, strong enough to be gentle without losing anything. You might be thinking right now, that is a long road, music. And you are right. It is. But you have already been walking for a long time. The only question worth asking is whether you have been walking in the right direction. Start today, not with a grand gesture, with one honest choice. One moment where you do not apologize for music what is true. One silence you do not rush to fill. One decision made from your values instead of someone else's comfort. That is where it begins, and it never really stops.